Hello everybody, welcome to a new tutorial on my series for complete beginners about Blender. This is part 4 of the series, and in the previous part we have created the body for Hornet using some modifiers. In this part we will create the cloak of Hornet and then adding the cloth simulation to it to make it bend with physics. If you are a complete beginner that stumbled upon this episode, then I recommended you checking out part 1 first, since it's covered most of the topics that you will need on your Blender creation journey and help you create something that is actually decent from scratch. So let's get started the episode. First, we will create the cloak. And to create the cloak, I will use Shift A, use a mesh, and adding a new circle. We can change the circle to its vertices to 15 or 6 or whatever you prefer. I'll set it to 12. Now, as I talked before, this box won't appear if you have touched something else, deselect a circle, or do another action like move or transform. This box will disappear. Well, I believe there's a shortcut for it, but I don't quite remember it. So the only thing I remember is that if I press something else, it just disappears. So you can open it up using the arrow and just change the vertices. After that, we can deselect it. Now let's select it. Rename this to Cloak. Cloak. Is it about like over here? Yeah. And then move this up to over roughly just about to touching the neck, but not. You'll understand why I do this later on. We also don't want this to be too big, since later we will extrude it up and scale it out. Let's make sure you select the cloak circle and then go to edit mode. After you go to edit mode, it should select all the vertex or vertices in this orange color. If it isn't, just press A. It's the shortcut to select everything. And then now we will use extruding, the extrude tool. So press A to select all the vertex or vertices. We'll call it vertices from now on. And then I accidentally press this. Let's just return it back. Let's press E and then Z to extrude it up at the Z axis. This way it's just lock it up. Scale the color out. You can also move this up, match it. I will select the X-ray mode here. What the X-ray mode is basically works like the wireframe. It lets you select through objects. So, adjusting it. Let's see how this looks. Now we will use the X-ray mode again. To select, use the select box to select through it, and you'll create this loop. Or you can go to edge mode here, select hold option and select the edge. It should select the loop for you. Now you're gonna do the same. Press E and then Z, scale this down around over here, and then scale this out. We'll turn off X-ray mode. Now you have a pretty good looking cloak. I would love this to be bigger. And move this up. And then we have the cloak. Next, before we exit out of edit mode and come back to object mode, we we will use the cloth simulation later on. So you need more vertices, more edges, more vertices to work on. Because simulations uses the faces and then move those faces. So the more faces you add, the more smooth the cloth simulation will be. Of course, you can do the subdivision, but I found out that it will create an uneven amount of faces, so I don't like it. So we will use a manually way. So we will select the loop cut tool. This is a tool which is basically lets you create a loop cut. As you can see, it divides these. And after you create a loop cut, you can also come back here and select edge slide. Select the edge you want and just slide it. This way you can adjust your loop cut or your edge. Let's Command Z. The shortcut for this is Control R or Alt R. Depending on your computer, the shortcut can change. But when you Control R, you should be noticing that after you press and confirm that you have created a loop cut, 2 arrows will appear. This means that it is indicating that you are in the edge slide mode. So if now you move, it will change your edge slide position. Click again to confirm. So this way, we can do the same to create more faces. So we will add we will go select the loop cut tool over here and go to the tool and icon in the properties tab over here. We can change the number of cuts. I'll change it to 6. And when you click, it will automatically create 6 of them. That's what we want. Let's change this to 3, half of the number. Let's go back. And now we can use the subdivision to add more. As you can see, it's smoothing this out, but it's not a problem since the overall shape didn't change that much. And then we can combine it with the shade smooth, and it should be a pretty decent looking. I'll just shade flat this back to show you the simulations. So in the properties tab, over here down to the physics properties, this icon over here, this blue icon, you can see there are about 8 of these. But if you have any extensions or mods, it can change. So there's force field, collision cloth, dynamic paint, soft body, fluid, rigid body constraint, and in total there is 8 of them. And these things are basically help you create physics effects for your objects. For example, collisions stops the object from going through another object during the physics simulation. You can combine many of them together. Cloth, which we will be using today, helps you simulate clothes, and it is the perfect tool for our cloak. Soft body just makes it soft like jelly. Fluid turns it into water, which is good for simulations about liquid like waters, juice, or anything. So now, without talking more, let's get started to actually diving into the simulation section. So to create one, it is really simple. Just click on the one that you want. In my case, I will add cloth, and it should look really weird right now. And if your one is like jumping, make sure that your cloak was set into the first frame, and it just falls through the void. There's nothing more to talk about here, because since there's no what I think is tension, what I like to call is tension points to keep it in place, or there is no collisions to stop it, it would just fall through the void. So to do this, we will want to pin the color out of the cloak to it, and then everything below it will follow the physics and fall down through it. To do this, we will use Vertex Group. And if you go down here into shape, you can see something called a pin group over here. And this is the perfect functionality that we wanted. If you go to the pin vertex group with this kind of honeycomb-like icon, if this is the first project that you created, there should be no results found. There's no vertex group. I haven't created one. But if you've seen one, then maybe you have accidentally created it. So for those who haven't created, go to the data here, click plus, and you have created vertex group. Really simple. Go to edit mode, and now here's the functionality of vertex group. Let's select the select box. And now I will turn on X-ray mode, since you can see that the mesh in these lines in the mesh, the white part, is different because as I talked before, we have added a subdivision surface, but we haven't applied it yet, so it doesn't change yet. So before I do the vertex group, I will just apply it. Apply the subdivision, go back to this, go to edit mode. Now I can select the top part that I want to pin up. And I'll call this color. Make sure you're still selecting it, and also you'll see I've just selected half of it, almost forgot. Go to X-ray mode and select this. Now you can press assign, and now there is no change, nothing have changed. But if you press assign, it should have been assigned this vertex into this vertex group. So how does this work? Well, a vertex group basically treats a selected area that you wanted, that you press assign, as a separate object. This way you can add like certain modifier to only this area. For example, okay, like you can add certain modifiers to this, only this area, and the rest won't be affected. Or in our case, pin this area in. So this can be useful for you in creating geometry nodes, which is an advanced topic that you will learn later on in your Blender learning journey, or it can also work with more things that helps in animations and a lot. So after you press assign, you'll go back to object mode and go to the physics over here. There should be a color one, and just select it, and now it should have been pinned, but it kind of goes through the body, which doesn't look too good. So the first thing I want to do is that I want this to be more bending in bigger chunks. So I'll change this to linear first. No, like. And then I'll change the color. And then I reduce the structural and the stiffness to about 10, and this one to about 15, so it feels more stiff. Reduce the bending down to 0.3. I'll increase the qualities up to 10, the vertex mass to 0.1. And maybe we can increase the stiffness more. 17, 16. And then we can shade smooth this. And then we can increase, like, the more you increase, the bigger chunks it will be. Yeah, like this. This is what I want. And now we can just keep it like this. Also, for those of you who wanted to create some animations, you can add the collision to this leg. And after you have a collision, it should be colliding with your leg and doesn't go through it, like go through all the way. So you can add a collision here. And also later we will create a wind effect for this. So yeah, later on we will create a wind effect for this. So we want this to be colliding with it, so like it's flowing in an animation. To modifier. And there we go, we have our cloth. This is the end of our episode 4. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like, share, notification bell. It helps a lot for me. Appreciate it. Goodbye. See you again in the next video.